Hi everyone. Thank you so much for joining in today. My name is Mitesh Bhopale and I work as a senior product manager with Oracle for Startups. And I have my colleague with me, Vikas Raina, who is a senior principal cloud architect and who's going to help you all along with me to experience an awesome and mature cloud that is Oracle Cloud. So we come from the cloud architects team and our line of business includes Oracle for Startups, where we help startups to grow and nurture in Oracle Cloud. I don't want to go much into the details about what we do because we have a lot of tasks in our portfolio, which helps the startups to grow. It is one of my most happiest day today because I get to do my favorite part of my job, and that is to teach the young student community about this awesome technology and let you all know the potential about Oracle Cloud. I'm really thankful that you all have joined the call to learn something really interesting. Trust me, this session is on cloud computing and Oracle Cloud won't be disappointing at all. So we are here to showcase and dip your toes in the ocean of cloud computing, which not only shaped my career, but it might be your next potential path also. So sit back and enjoy the session. So in this session, we will be describing about what is cloud and how Oracle Cloud will help you all, the new developers like you all, to create some nice final year projects, or if because you all have young minds, you'll be having many startup ideas. So you could host these kind of application, or you can create new applications and you can host it in Oracle Cloud. So which can serve someday some large customers also. So I would encourage you all to flood us with tons of questions in the Q&A tab, and we would be happy to answer all your queries. Also, this webinar is just the start of our engagement with Vardhaman College of Engineering. We would share all the links and relevant materials regarding OCI, and we would love to connect on a hands-on session by visiting your college someday. Let's go to the next slide. Okay, so let's start. So in the audience, I'm sure there'll be people who will be knowing what is the basics about cloud. But for the general audience, what is cloud? So there are definitions given over here by different institutes like National Institute of Standard Technology or Gartner. So cloud computing methodology is a very simple thing. If you're using any application like social media applications any day today, like Snapchat, Facebook, WhatsApp. So they are when you're using it, they are getting hosted somewhere, right? So you are accessing them via public interface and then via internet. So if there is an event in your college and you'll be clicking many photos and sending it across, so the computational power gets increases on demand. So where everything is happening, this kind of scenario is where cloud technology plays a major role. So according to me, via layman term, cloud technology is very simple. So it is a methodology that provides services for provisioning and delivering of resources via internet. So it helps in reducing infrastructure management, cost reduction, and makes application development and maintenance easy. Okay, so let's go to characteristics of cloud computing. So there are different types, different characteristics when you use a cloud computing technology. Mostly they are divided into these 5 types. The first one is on-demand self-service. So they are pretty much self-explanatory, but I'll just go a little bit about it. So on-demand self-service capabilities enables users to use cloud computing resources, which requires minimum human interaction, and it can be done via a web service portal. So every cloud provider will be having their own web service portal, and you can provision any n numbers of resources using this portal. So users can unilaterally use network storage, which requires least human interaction, and you can create these services. The next one is rapid elasticity. So I told you about this event in your college kind of thing. No? So if when there'll be an event or any occasion. So people tend, for the social media thing, people tend to be more active and they keep posting pictures. So there's more computation which is happening. So there will be rapid elasticity. So the background where this application is running, it should also scale in that fashion, right? So resources can be provisioned and released on demand, and it is just based on triggers and parameters, and it can do it at any time. So the consumers don't even know that there are elasticity is happening. So that ease of amount it gives in cloud computing. Next one is broader network access. So again, the example where I gave mobile applications. So you could use your applications via mobile, or uh, you could access cloud computing technologies via web-based portal. So there are very much broad network access. You just require an internet connectivity, and you could access the cloud computing technologies. So and via mobiles or every different workstation. So that is one advantage of using cloud computing. The next one is measured services. So whenever you're using a cloud computing technology, there will be charges which will be happening. So it is what kind of resources you're using. So uh, you could monitor how much you're using, how much CPU RAM you're using, and you could report based on those utilizations. So these measured services will give you transparency for both provider as well as consumers who will utilize this service. So cloud systems automatically controls and optimizes resources used by leveraging metering capabilities. So you could use it for storage, processing powers, bandwidth, active user accounts. So everything can be measured on cloud. The last one is resource pooling. So at the end of the day, cloud is a data center hosted somewhere, right? So there'll be multiple customers who will be using this kind of technology. So there'll be a resource pooling is a feature which lets the same physical resources which can be used by multiple customers by securely separating the resources on a logical level. So the different physical and virtual resources are dynamically assigned and reassigned for the consumer on demand. So if I'm using one resource, and Vikas has his own company and he's using another resource, so it will be via secure access, and we won't be even able to know that we are using this kind of resources in the same data centers, because there's all independence is maintained and security has been maintained. So users will only have the some of the what do you say, they can choose like country, state, data center, but there's a complete security which helps in resource pooling. So that is another advantages of using character cloud. Let's go to different types of service models in cloud. So there are different types of service models which are divided. So the first one is SaaS, that is software as a service. Then it is platform as a service, that is PaaS. And the last one, which is my favorite, that is infrastructure as a service, that is IaaS. So this is slide is also very much self-explanatory. So software as a service. So this kind of service, you can take example like Gmail, which you all must be using, right? So what you do is just directly use the service. So everything is managed by the provider. So the application, data, runtime, middleware, operating system, everything is delivered as a service to you. So everything remains as masked up. So you just use the service, and on the go you could utilize whatever you want to do with that service. So you don't have to take care of anything other than the service. The next one is platform as a service. So here the data and the application. So what in this sense, this is also a very good service. So if you don't want to manage the IaaS part, the compute, the network, the storage part, you could just get your application and your data, and then you could directly deploy these kind of applications on it, and you could go. So you don't have to manage how much data, how much computing power you require, how much RAM you require, or how much storage you require, because that everything will be managed by the cloud service provider. but you have to only manage your application and the data. This is also a very good service for the developers to use PaaS service. Then last one is infrastructure as a service. I call it my favorite is because you could play around with it, and you could dip your hands and make dirty, and you could do n number of things with it also. So here you'll get so only the compute, the servers, storage, and networking will be managed by the cloud service provider. But here you could use your operating system, the middleware, the runtime, data application. So everything, it is your responsibility. If you want to build a custom application, so you could always use IaaS. So you could use any if you're using a GPU machine or any intensive compute machine, so you could use in that fashion, and you could deploy your application. So that is very helpful in IaaS. Okay, so now you must be bored listening to me. So I'll just hand it over to my friend Vikas, who will take it from here. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mitesh. As always, you're so wonderful with explaining concepts about cloud. Thank you. All right, folks. So let's talk about a cloud in detail. I'm going to dive deep into Oracle Cloud. But before that, let's look at various cloud models. And you will hear these words very often if you are talking about cloud, be it as a consumer or as a developer. So cloud offering comes in various shapes, forms, and sizes, but primarily the kind of cloud offering that we hear about is public cloud. Public cloud is cloud which is open to all the public. Anybody and everybody can go in, sign in, pay the fee, and sign up for the public cloud. And this is true for all the cloud service providers. So public cloud is very similar to public transport service that you may be using, maybe a bus, or maybe a metro, maybe a train, or maybe even a cab. So similar to that, public cloud is available for everyone, and it will have all the features, all the services which the cloud service provider is providing. And remember, public cloud is the data center, or the premise of the services is with the cloud service provider. Okay, so you will not know if Oracle is providing you a public cloud service, you will not know where the data center is, except for the geographical location. Second is private cloud. Private cloud is exclusively meant for specific customers. A big customer like GE, or maybe customer like Sony may not want to use public cloud for whatever reasons. So they can go for private cloud. So private cloud is meant for a specific customer, which means anybody outside the enterprise cannot access that cloud, right? So it's very similar to, if I have to give you an example, it's very similar to you having a car or your own two-wheeler at home, which only you can use or your family members can use, but it's not available for the rest of the public. Third offering that is there is hybrid cloud. Hybrid cloud, as the name suggests, is a mixture of the offering, where partly you use the public or the private cloud, and you also use on-prem environment. So two kinds of environments, if you're using, you are actually using hybrid cloud. Again, if I have to give you an analogy, it's like using your own vehicle to go up to the metro station, and then from there you take a metro or train, whatever it is. So you're using two different kinds of offerings. And finally, this is going to be the future, and this is something which is becoming very popular. It's multi-cloud. Multi-cloud is when you don't want to be associated only with just one cloud service provider, and you want to take services from multi-cloud service providers. So you may be taking some services from Oracle Cloud, some of the services from AWS, Amazon Cloud, or Google Cloud, depending upon what your business need is. If I have to give you an analogy, it's like using multiple SIMs for your mobile phone. Typically, these days, people use 2 SIMs. There are phones which are supporting 3 SIMs. So similar to that, you can run some of your services on one cloud service provider and rest of the services on other cloud service provider. Now, why would you go for public cloud versus multi-cloud versus private cloud is a business decision depending upon what your business looks like, and whether you want to hedge your bets or how you want to go about running your business. So there are multiple reasons. I'll not get into details of that, but just be aware that there are various offerings that are available to an enterprise or a customer. Next slide, please. Okay, so let's dive deep into what Oracle Cloud Infrastructure or what Oracle Cloud is offering to our customers or innovators or startups or even enterprise. So Oracle was the first company which actually built cloud grounds up, which means we reimagined all the core services and system designs and came up with a cloud offering which would speed up your development to market phase, accelerate your migrations to Oracle Cloud, and also would not hook you with one cloud that, if I've started using Oracle Cloud, then I cannot migrate to any other cloud. I cannot use any other cloud because I'm tied to one cloud. So we have kept our architecture open. We have built machines. We are providing you software, which is software and hardware actually, which has price performance ratio is the best in the business. We offer you tons of services. We also encourage you to use multi-cloud. Our cloud is built in a manner that you could use multi-cloud approach and have your services run on different cloud service providers. There is built-in security where zero trust security is in there. And finally, there are a lot of cloud native services, the services which are meant only for cloud. They were created for cloud. Those services are available, and that whole ecosystem exists on Oracle Cloud. Next slide, please. So Oracle Cloud offers you almost 34 regions. When I use the word regions, I'm primarily talking about the data center. And there are many more which are planned. And every year we are having multiple data centers or regions coming live. In India, we have our data centers running in Hyderabad and Mumbai. Now, a question that can be asked is, why do you need so many data centers? Why can't I have just one hyper data center located somewhere and just work with it? Why you got your data centers all over the world? Again, I'll go back to my favorite analogy, which is about bank. Banks have their headquarters and then they have their multiple branches spread across the country. Why do you need that? There are many reasons, and those are the reasons which apply for our data centers too. Uh, first reason is the sovereign requirement. A lot of countries nowadays mandate that a certain kind of data, it could be personal data, it could be financial data, cannot leave the geographical boundaries of the country. For example, India doesn't allow that. Europe doesn't allow that. They have GDPR there. Saudi Arabia doesn't allow financial data moving out of the country. So what would the customer do in that case? So to solve this problem, we have created regions which are in the geographical locations of the customer, and they meet the sovereign requirement of keeping their data inside the geographical boundaries of that specific country. Reason number two is disaster recovery. So if I have my software running only in one data center, and for some reason that data center goes down, maybe there is no electricity, there is no power, there is flooding, there is war, and you can't access the data center. What do? You can't have a scenario where your business is down because you can't access data center. Your services are not running. So in that case, to avoid that situation as a mitigation, we offer you to run your secondary services in some other data center. For example, if I have my services running in Mumbai and Hyderabad, I am secure that in case Mumbai goes down because of excessive rains, or Hyderabad data center goes down because there is no power or there is some outage, my business will not go down. I can move my services, I can move my software or the business or the application that I'm running from Mumbai to Hyderabad and Hyderabad to Mumbai, depending upon which one is available. Last but not the least is the latency factor. The fact remains, the farther away you are from the data center where your application is running, slower your application will be for the end customer. Now, this slowness is in microseconds. Okay, it's not like there is a major slowness there, but for some services, for customer experience, especially if you are using mobile services, you need to have that seamless experience. And customer these days is very finicky, and they have multiple options. So to avoid the scenario where latency is a factor, we have brought our services closer to the customer, which means if you are in India and you are running a mobile app, instead of running the software in somewhere in US, now that software is running in India, in Mumbai or Hyderabad, and latency factor is not there. So three factors primarily, which is geographical proximity to the customer, disaster recovery, and sovereign requirement, which causes us to create so many regions or data centers across the globe. There is another option that has come in is not only that we are creating data centers for Oracle customer, we're also having some kind of tie-up with Microsoft Cloud, which is Azure, so that you can run some of your services on Microsoft and rest of them on Oracle, or vice versa. You could run your database on Oracle Cloud while your application or front end runs on Azure. So we are creating that kind of alliance also with our competition or our partners. Next slide, please. So Oracle Cloud offers you complete cloud ecosystem or cloud capability to build your solution, build your if you are thinking of building an application or you have an innovative solution in your mind, or in your case as simple as some university project, Oracle Cloud provides you complete cloud capability. At the core of it, at the base of it, there are core infrastructure services like a server, a storage, networking running at the most basic level. On top, you can run your databases, you can run your AI services, you can run your messaging services to build that part of your application. Parallelly, Oracle also offers you developer services like Apex, where you can build your application without even coding. It's just mostly drag and drop. You could do that. You could also use Oracle's Visual Builder Cloud service, which is again a very low code kind of a service, which helps you in building your application, and you don't spend time on writing code, but you're spending time on designing and engineering your application. Oracle also was the first company which widely adopted infrastructure as a code platform. Infrastructure as a code is nothing but a way of deploying your core infrastructure on Oracle Cloud across instances, across regions. Lastly, Oracle Cloud offers you monitoring services. You can monitor your application, monitor your infrastructure, keep an eye on it in case there is something going wrong, something is not working, something is going down, there is a spike, it's costing you a lot of money and you are not aware of it, or a system is not able to cope up with the demand. All those things can be monitored by services on Oracle Cloud, which would alert you that something is not right, something is going wrong, and you can take a mitigation action. Next slide, please. Okay, so we talked about core infrastructure services, we talked about database and all that. I'm going to get into a bit more detail about these services. What are these services? So I'm using these words. Some of the words maybe some of you may understand the terminology, some of you may not. So let's talk in detail about what does core infrastructure services mean. At the core of it, there is a compute machine. Compute machine is nothing but a server. Your laptop is a server, your PC is a server, or sometimes you are using server or a shared or a common server, and you're using only dumb terminals. So Oracle offers you various kinds of compute servers, and depending on what kind of service you want to use, what kind of configuration do you require, what kind of memory, RAM, what number of cores do you require, you will pick one of the compute services. At the very basic level, most of the people, say for example, if you are going to build a service for your college, more often than not, you will be using something called VMs, which are virtual machines. So these are, there is a huge server on which we create logically isolated servers. Mitesh was talking about about the concept of multi-tenant, where multiple people are using the same server. So we create multiple virtual machines on the server, and multiple people can use those machines, and they won't even realize that these are the machines are hosted on the same infrastructure, same hardware. There is flexible sizing available. You can, during runtime, you can change the configuration of the machine. You can increase the number of cores of the machine. You could increase or decrease, scale up or scale down the memory and the RAM, depending upon what your business need is. Similarly, we offer you bare metal machines. Bare metal machines are primarily a complete server given to you, and you can deploy your own hypervisor on top of it and start using it depending on what your business needs is. Then there are containers and functions. Containers primarily are, a child of VMs, where you can run multiple containers. Again, containers is nothing but, in a way, they are also virtual machines, but they are of smaller size. So you could divide a VM. Let's put it this way: you could logically divide a bare metal into multiple VMs, a single VM into multiple containers. Okay, but but in principle, they remain the same. And finally, there are functions. These are serverless functions, a very typical cloud native service where as a user, you don't have to worry about the kind of infrastructure being used. You just take your application, run it, and deploy it, showcase it to your customer. Not worry about the kind of infrastructure that is running behind. Now, a lot of services that Oracle offers are open source, so there is no vendor lock-in for the customer in this case. And then there are various kinds of chips that we are using. This could be AMD or Intel, NVIDIA GPUs, Ampere. Again, depending on, they have different costs, they have different features depending on what you need. Those kinds of machines, those kinds of chips can be used for your business need. I'll talk about storage a bit from now. Let's move on to the next slide, please. Okay, storage. Storage device is nothing but a way to store your data. Okay, your USB is a storage device. You have storage devices available on Google Cloud where you store your photos, or you have Google Drive where you would store your documents. And similarly, there are other players who offer this kind of a service. Even Yahoo used to offer this kind of service way back. But if you are on cloud and you are developing your application, you would need some kind of a storage to store your files or store your data. So Oracle Cloud offers you various kinds of services. There could be a local device, SSD device. A local device means it's attached to your VM by default. So if if you have a, let's say, for analogy's sake, if you have a laptop, some kind of a local storage will come with it by default. So that is default storage. Then there is block, file, and object storage. These three storages are external storages, just like external hard drive. You will have to hook up your hard drive or your storage with your device or your VM, and start using as a external storage. The difference between local and external storage, block, file, or object storage, would be that local storage stays with the VM, with your machine, whereas block, file, or object storage can be detached from the VM and can be hooked up with another device. Then or before that, so block, file, and object storage, why do we have multiple kind of storages? Because business needs are different. These storages, they work in a different manner. So depending upon your business needs, how you want to, whether you are looking for capacity, performance, price, scalability, one device hooking up with multiple VMs, depending upon that kind of a need, or you want a completely separate standalone kind of a storage, which is object storage, which is highly available and unlimited scalability. If you're looking at that kind of requirement, then you would use one of these storage devices. Besides that, there are storage devices or storage means available, like archive storage or storage gateway, or maybe using storage for data transfer. But these are for somebody who is just starting. These probably aren't used as often as the first four. Next slide, please.
Yeah, because it's we have around 15 minutes.
Sure. Database. If you're not aware of databases, what databases are and how do they work, I would recommend that you read up a bit about databases. Databases are siblings of storage. Databases are also used to store data, but the data is stored in a specific format. Now there are various kind of databases available. These are RDBMS database, which is relational database. There is NoSQL database, which is something which has come up recently. You have open source databases like MySQL or MongoDB. Within databases, Oracle offers you autonomous database, Exadata, or database running on a compute machines. So there are various kind of databases options which are available. A lot of it is autonomous database, where you just are a user of the database. You don't have to worry about how do I manage my database, or else if you want to manage your database yourself as a self-managed database, you could use that kind of a database service. So the point I'm trying to drive here is, for storage, you could use storage device, which is file, block, and object storage, or you could use databases also, depending on what your business need is. Although in terms of usage, in terms of storing data, in terms of how do we process the data, database is absolutely must for any decent application. Without database, most likely you won't be able to even build a properly running application, or it would be, at least it would be a little bit difficult. Next slide, please. Networking. I'm sure if you are into computer science branch or any branch which is related to electronics, you would have heard about networking or you would have worked on it. Networking in Oracle is again virtual networking. You could, if I have to again analogy your time, if I have to compare this networking is very similar to electricity wires running in your house. You don't see them; it is behind your walls. But what you see is those plug points where you can, either plug in your laptop or your iron box or your TV, and you can also switch on, switch off your lights, fans, AC, and any electrical device that you are running. So what I'm trying to say here is, just like your electrical wiring in the house, networking is also invisible to you. It's virtual. But why do I need networking? Because that's how my devices are going to interact with each other. My devices or the services I'm running are going to interact with the external world. My services that I'm running are going to interact or engage with me. If I don't have networking, it's something isolated lying somewhere in the cloud, and I don't have any access to it. I can't even access it. If I'm using if I've developed a application, nobody can access that application. So I need networking for that purpose. Now networking again gets divided into multiple options. You have your subnets, you will have your firewalls, you will have your ports for your security, then you will have DNS to manage your traffic. You will also look at load balancers to balance your load once the traffic is coming in. And also you can isolate, based upon your networking, you can isolate your resources between whether you want them to be accessed by the world, by the internet, or you want them to be accessed from within the organization, from within your own private network. Okay, so networking is the heart and soul of any cloud computing solution. And again, my recommendation would be to brush up your knowledge on networking if you're not done so. And that's something you will be using extensively if you get into a cloud development environment, or even if you are just a user. Next slide, please. Let's talk about cloud native applications. I spoke about cloud native applications being the ones that are built in cloud, that are meant for cloud. So Oracle provides you a broad set of services which are cloud native services, and they are meant for cloud only. So there are various services, whether it's API management, whether you are using container services for your microservices, you are using serverless functions, or you're using machine learning services, Kafka messaging service. A lot of it may not make any sense to you, but just hear me out. So if you're using these cloud native services to build up your application, Oracle provides you a lot many external tools which integrate with these services to make those services robust and easily manageable. So you could use Terraform to deploy your infrastructure anywhere across Oracle Cloud environment. You could use GitLab to store your application files, and again deploy it wherever you would want them to be deployed. So there are various services which are available, uh, which integrate very well with Oracle's cloud native open source system, which allows you to build an innovative and an enterprise grade solution. Next slide, please. So I spoke about all the offerings that Oracle Cloud provides you, what kind of deployments are there and stuff like that. Now, if you are interested in getting your hands dirty with Oracle Cloud, if you are excited about, let me set up a compute machine and see how it works in Oracle Cloud, there are a couple of options available. You could go for a free trial option, which is you get 30 days of free trial. And for 30 days, you can explore Oracle Cloud. Within that, you get always free service. What is always free service? Is like a database service or a compute service, a service which is free forever. So you set up a database, and Oracle will never charge you any money for that. Similarly, there are compute services. You set up a server, Oracle will not charge you any money for that. So in most of the services, you will see at least one free service or two free services available. If you run those services, they are unlimited forever and ever. There is a link at the bottom. We will send you an email with all the links, so you don't have to worry about this link right now. Just know that there are free trials and always free services available in Oracle Cloud. Next slide, please. So Oracle offers you, Oracle Cloud actually offers you a lot of certifications and courses that you can take. Certifications are a good way to, build up knowledge and test how you stand, with respect to the kind of knowledge you have gained. Why these are recommended is even if you don't take the exam, you don't take the test, but just to go through the courses, there are multiple videos and there are do-it-yourself labs and there is documentation available. Once you go through it, you would realize that you are comfortable with cloud terminology in general and Oracle Cloud in specific. Now, why it helps is once you're comfortable with cloud terminology, how cloud works, you can not only be comfortable and confident about Oracle Cloud, but you will be comfortable and knowledgeable about other cloud service provider services, because services remain the same. The underlying principle remains the same, but it is just the way services provided to you or deployed for you changes. So there are lot many certifications which are available. Some of them are free, some of them are chargeable. But at least going through the course and going through the documentation and videos is free. I would recommend that you go through them, have a look at that, spend some time on these certifications. I can guarantee you that this will help you a lot in your future once you start engaging with folks who come to your college for campus placements. Next slide, please. All right, that's a wrap up from my side, and I will now hand it back to Mitesh for my favorite part of this whole webinar, which is cloud demo. Mitesh, back at you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Vikas, for such a nice introduction about cloud computing and Oracle Cloud. So yeah, so we have talked many terminologies now, right? So let's start with seeing things what we have talked till now. Yeah. So let me share my screen once again. 1 second. Okay. So here we go. Let's go to the main page where everything happens. We hit cloud.oracle.com and we are there at the login page of cloud. So we get a unique cloud name. So in my case, it is my cloud, ECR cloud, and then I hit next, and then I have my credentials. So I'll be able to log into the cloud tenancy. So I just say continue by IDCS, and these are my saved credentials. You just have to enter your credentials, the username and password, and done. You are there on the main homepage where all the action takes place, which is the Mecca, the Medina of the Oracle Cloud. So here you reach. So the first and foremost thing is, I'll just give you a thing like because we are looking at it in a university perspective. So there'll be when I was there, we had projects which were done for the final year. We were there in a couple of students who used to do it. So there'll be always people who will be there. Like if there is one cloud access they have, so there'll be a developer, an administrator, a database admin. So you can create different users for them and you can give access to them accordingly. So the first and foremost thing is creating a user in cloud. Yeah. So you just go to the hamburger menu over here and you click identity and security and you click users. Okay. So you could create multiple amount of users. So in an enterprise or in a startup, there are many employees who work, right? So you could create different users for them and you could give access to them accordingly. So if an employee is just doing infrastructure job, so you could give access or read only permission or a write permission to them to create only the resources. If he is doing a database admin job, then you could give write only for the database servers. So these kind of granularity is there to create users. So creating a user is quite easy. You just go to users and then you say create user. We can create IDCS user or IAM users. So IDCS users are those which will you can map the domain. So now miteshgopale@oracle.com. So that is an IDCS user. You could directly map the identity, and then you could create, or you could for any general purpose way, you could directly create a user which you could give an access to. So you just give the name, the description, and the email, and confirm email, and you just say create. And once you do that, automatic mail will be generated to them, right? So again we go over here, and the users are then created. Okay. Then the next part is we need to add them in different groups. So groups are a thing where you could like there are administrator group, or a database admin group, or a network admin group. So you could group is a logical kind of a group where you could add users, and you could write policies, and you could give them. So here are the different groups. You could create groups, or you can add a specific user to that group. So that is an easy procedure. The next one is compartments. So this is a unique feature which is provided by Oracle Cloud. So what compartment does is it's a logical container. So if you want to store resources, or if you want to isolate resources, you could use compartments. There are many other uses also, like in cost effective manner, or if you want to put a threshold that you have to spend only this much amount. So these is where compartments are being used. So in a university perspective, now if you are doing a development project, so you could create a development compartment, and you could create all the resources in the development compartment. And then when you're launching, when you're doing a testing, and then you're launching the production application, that time you could create production VMs, so that you don't mess up with the development VMs, and you could directly put them into a production compartment, and you could deploy your application. So that is how the process has been maintained. Yeah. The next one is Vikas talked about networking, right? So the first and foremost thing is if you want to create any resources, you have to create a network infrastructure. So the easy way to do is, again, we go to hamburger menu, networking, and yeah, as he mentioned, it's virtual cloud network. So we can create a virtual cloud network also. So we could do it in two manners, like create a custom VCN, or there's a startup wizard which is used, a VCN wizard. So it can create multiple resources like the VCN, public subnet, private subnet, internet gateway, NAT gateway, service gateway. So these are different terminologies and different services which are associated with VCN. If you go into deep, you'll come to know about them. So it's a pretty easy thing. You just go over there, startup VCN wizard, and you click on the startup VCN, and you just fill in the blanks, and done. You just say next, and you say create, and you'll be able to create a VCN. So that how easy it is to create a VCN. Yeah. So the next process is are now users are set up, our network has been set up. Now what we'll do is we'll deploy a compute machine. So compute machine will help you to deploy your application on it. So somewhere the computing power is happening, right? So we can deploy the compute machine now. So again, it's an easy process. We just go to here, hamburger menu, and we want to, there are different types of compute machines which Vikas discussed. We are creating an instance, a VM instance now, a virtual machine. So it's again easy. You just go and create an instance over here. Yeah. And you can give any name over here, like we can give VC, Vardhaman College of Engineering. So I've created in my compartment. That is this. You can select whichever compartment you create. So it can be a development or a production compartment. Different ADs. So as Vikas talked about regions, right? So regions are geographically isolated. So in a particular regions, we'll be having availability domains. So some of the regions will be having 3 availability domains. Some of them will be having 1 availability domain. So these are individual data centers located at a specific distance. So you could select any availability domain which are connected via low latency and a good bandwidth. So you could connect to them. The next one is selecting the image. So image is an operating system where you could select any images provided by Oracle Cloud. So here are different images like Oracle Linux, CentOS, Ubuntu, Windows machine. So you could launch any VM. So for this example, I'm taking Ubuntu machine, and I'll just say select image. Okay, then comes the shape. So you could select any shape. As he mentioned, there are different CPU shapes available. So E4 AMD processors, Intel processors. If you want, you can create a bare metal machine. So I'll just keep this as default now. You could play around with the OCPUs or the RAMs, and you could it depends on your application. You could select the compute shape. Yeah. Sorry. Then you could do is the VCN which you had created back then. You could select that VCN and whichever subnet. So a public subnet is there or private subnet is there. So public subnet is a subnet where you can keep external facing applications like the customer applications, or which requires internet access. And private subnet you could keep machines or compute machines where you don't require internet connectivity directly. So database machine is one of the good practice which you could keep. So again, now yeah, the next part is I've selected public subnet over here because I'll be logging into the machine and I'll install an application. The next part is adding an SSH key. So now you want to connect from the machine, from your local machine to the cloud machine, right? So there'll be a secure connection. So this SSH protocol has been used, and the public and private key, when they matches, then only you can log into that machine. Yeah. So I'll be posting putting my public key over here. I have my public key. Yeah. So this is my public key. I'm just copying it and I'm pasting it over here. And yeah, so now I have corresponding private key available on my local machine. So whenever I'm want to connect to this machine, this public key and private key will have this combination, and then only I can able to log into the machine. Next, other things I'll keep it as default, a boot volume and other things, and I'll just say create. So this takes a minute or so. This will turn into green, and then we can log into the machine. So what I'm going to do is I'll be installing a web server, that's Apache. That's a pretty easy web server. So you could host your website. So you could create HTML pages or CSS pages or PHP pages, anything, and then you could directly host it on Apache server. And then via the public IP, you could match it to the DNS, and then you could host your own website. So that's how easy it is. Yeah. So this is the public IP. So this is like the unique IP for this particular machine provided by Oracle. So now I have to log into that machine, right? So let's log in. Now there's a specific command. So I open my terminal to log in. So this is a specific command, SSS-I. So this is the corresponding private key for this public key. So this is a pair which will match, and then I give the username, and I'll paste my public IP. Yeah. Once I do that, I'll be able to, so it will match the fingerprint, and then I'll be able to log into that machine. See, now I am inside the machine. It's the Ubuntu is the username and the VC is the machine name. Yeah, I'm there in the machine now. So now I'll run pretty simple commands so that to install Apache server. So these are the pretty easy commands which are there available on internet also. You could just directly copy paste those commands and you can install Apache server. Last one is I'll be opening port 80. So Apache listens on port 80. So on the firewall on Ubuntu, I'll be opening port 80 and I'll save those changes. That. So now we could directly go over here, and if we hit over here, we'll be reaching the Apache Ubuntu page. So this is the default HTML page. You could edit this page, and as I said, you could put your own pages, and this is how you launch your website. So I'll give you an example. This is my website, miteshbhopale.com. I bought a DNS name from a DNS provider, miteshbhopale.com. So what I do is I've been hosting this from last 3 years now, and I've not even paid one dime to Oracle Cloud. So this is how you do that. You launch an always free machine, and then you could do the similar procedure, and you can create a website. You could create this page kind of thing, and you can launch it. And that is how easy it is to launch a website. So yeah, so there are very much possibilities. So you could create our applications, you could create websites, you could do many things, e-commerce website kind of thing. And these are things which help you. So yeah, so that is pretty much from my side. Because do you want to say something, and then we can hand it over to Nikhila, and then we can conclude, because we have already shoot up the time.
Yes, thanks, Mitesh. Quick last word. Folks, you will have our email address in case you have any query, in case you want to discuss more about Oracle Cloud, or you want to know how you can access machines or certification or documentation. Please feel free to write a mail to Mitesh and me. We'll be happy to connect with you and guide you accordingly. Thank you.
Yeah, let me unmute Nikhila 1 second.